Governor Cuomo of New York is going to reopen indoor dining, limited capacity, a little ahead of schedule coming this Friday. We've got companies like LVMH tell their employees at Tiffany, we want you back in the office on March 1st. I mean, we are going to see some demand creep back into the market, too.
I wish we had everybody vaccinated. I know I intend to open my Mexican bar May 5th because I'm betting on the vaccine glut that Dr. Gottlieb talks about. Be very careful. When you have tents that you're eating in, the aerosol buildup in a tent is very bad, and it tends to bounce off the roof and come right to your plate. So there's very bad science that is calling for openings right now. Very good science says if you can have ventilation, very difficult to do in the winter, and you measure carbon dioxide, as the Japanese do, then, Carl, you can feel safer. But there's really been nothing to make restaurants safer. And there's also not a lot of restaurant police that tell you you have 25%. I will not be going to a restaurant until I feel that more people are vaccinated.
But wait, you're going to have been vaccinated. You still wouldn't go if you're vaccinated?
No, I won't because my wife won't be.
Ah, got it.
I get my second vaccine tomorrow, Moderna. Some people tell me the Moderna has a particular after effect that it causes you to be achy, short-term elevation in temperature. But I'm never going to miss that appointment, David. That is,
no,
you get it. You get your appointment, you get it.
So as of tomorrow, you will be double vaccinated.
No, 12 days. It's
right,
12 days
after your second vaccination.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, Jim, to the overall point, and I think you heard Jim Paulson on the last show talking about it as well, there is a lot of hope that we are getting back to work. As Carl just put it as well. I mean, the vaccine supply ramp that you just mentioned, what we averaged about 1.5 million vaccinations a day, I think, over the last week.
Very good.
We know there's a lot more supply coming on. New York, for example, again, we talk about it, people, because that's what we're most familiar with, is going to be going to phase 2 or whatever. A lot more people going to be able to be potentially vaccinated under that. Many below 65, any number of different conditions, including just being somewhat obese, is going to get you an appointment. This is happening. The pace of vaccine rollout is starting to pick up. Hospitalizations coming down because, thankfully, a lot of elderly people have already been vaccinated. Cases coming down. I think we're below 100,000. That's all good news, Jim. And that seems to be adding to some of the ebullience we're watching. Not today necessarily with the S&P looking like it will open a bit down, but generally in the market, not to mention, of course, the prospect of enormous stimulus coming with a lot of people getting $1,400 checks.
But at the same time, Carl, we can't pick up a paper talking about the new variants. Some of these vaccines are better on the variants than others. I don't like these stories because what it says is that it's a foot race between the vaccination and the variant. A lot of the companies are working on boosters. Some of the vaccinations don't necessarily have the great efficacy. I want J&J to be approved as fast as possible. Why? Because J&J has the ability to ramp up, and it does keep people from dying. I had a company called Veru on last night, very small, very speculative, but they have a pill that makes it so that it's much more likely that you will not die if you get on a respirator. Right now, the standard of care is a very bad one. It includes steroids and remdesivir, and many people are still dying in the hospitals. We want to get people not to go to the hospital. That's testing, but the government chose to pick a very expensive test at home. There's a very inexpensive test that they could easily use that they did not do. We need to catch people in the first 2 days when they're asymptomatic and they're going to work. The Harvard School of Public Health ensures that that is the principal way that it is transmitted. And then we got to get people so that they're in the hospital for briefly or out. That's Regeneron, which his stock has been really not that good. And then when you're in the hospital, you need things like Veru, a pill that gets you out. So, Carl, there are a lot of different stages that I like. I do think that the Sputnik method in Russia, where they just came up with a good method and they're giving it to everybody, is shining. I'm getting that from a New Yorker piece, Carl, that really does explain the Russian way of doing things versus us.
Yeah, it was a good piece that you mentioned last week that's worth reading. By the way, Walgreens and Uber today partnering to start providing free rides to vaccination sites. So to David's point and to Dr. Gottlieb's point, maybe when March comes, we really are dealing with an overall surplus.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.